Hi, and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of August 10, 2020. To quickly recap the predictions of the previous week, my predictions for the stock market direction were up Monday through Wednesday, down on Thursday, and then back up on Friday. And indeed, Monday through Wednesday were up days. On Thursday, market actually continued going up. And then on Friday, we had mixed results where NASDAQ went down, but Dow Jones went up. Then we have this ongoing general prediction, background influence, where we have Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. And this has been with us since 2019 and will continue to be felt through the end of this year. And this particular conjunction, especially in Capricorn, would tend to coincide with various strong geopolitical changes, increased seismic activity, changes in sort of powerful leadership, be it governmental leaders stepping down or being removed, or some reshuffling at the tops of large corporations. And it also tends to coincide with large-scale disasters and maybe beginning of construction of major projects. I guess this would be a positive manifestation, and or of course the destruction of some buildings or entities that have been sort of around for a long time. And let's see, for last week we did have one, I guess, at least from what I had caught, major 6.4 earthquakes in Vanuatu. Of course, I think that's the place where they have earthquakes frequently anyway. And there are a whole bunch of 5-point plus magnitude earthquakes in China, Peru, Alaska, and even a 5.1 in North Carolina in the US. In terms of leaders stepping down or being kind of removed, replaced, etc., I have basically not seen anybody necessarily retiring or passing away. However, I guess there was news about the CEO of Ford. Jim Hackett is going to be stepping down on October 1st. And of course we had presidential elections in Belarus. I guess I wasn't really aware that they were having a presidential election there at this time. And apparently the incumbent president had won in, I guess, by a landslide and retained his job. However, that particular election was followed by major protests, and that's something I did predict also that the August especially is going to be basically a tense month with a lot of protests and various kind of tense events. And I guess the note about that is that because of this particular time, this Pluto conjunction, Saturn transit favoring changes in the power, changes in the leadership, and removal of old leaders and basically those old leaders who are continuing to stay in power sort of despite these aspects. And again, not that astrology will make them leave or anything like that. It's just that the energy of the time is more favorable for major transformation. So if somebody is not necessarily removed, they either need to transform within themselves dramatically to the point that they are a new person, the company, is a new company, and find a totally different way of being, so to speak. Or if they're insisting and kind of continuing the status quo, this situation may escalate and they may, fall, as in be removed, or something may happen where they basically cannot continue the way they have. And of course, we also had this major explosion in Beirut in Lebanon, which both is a manifestation, of course, of, this kind of a major disaster that I was talking about. And indeed, for last week, I pointed out that this manifestation of Pluto-Saturn conjunction would be the strongest last week on August 3rd and 4th, and the explosion was on the 4th. But also, subsequently, we had major protests in Lebanon. One of their ministers information minister had resigned, and now it seems like the entire government there indeed may resign. So of course this also would be a manifestation of these of this exact aspect that often again coincides with geopolitical changes and leaders being removed, etc. And I also saw some comparisons in the news and the media of this major explosion in Beirut to the explosions in Toulouse, France in 2001, where there was also an explosion at the chemical factory, and there was also I guess a comparison to the Texas City 1947 disaster, where the same exact material, the ammonium nitrate, had exploded, I guess when they were offloading it of a ship or something like that. And I took a quick look out of curiosity at the charts of those two other events, and it was interesting to see that the tense aspects and the planets involved in the aspects were exactly the same as during this 2020 explosion in Beirut. So for Toulouse, for the 2001, we had Saturn opposing Pluto, and as I just mentioned, in 2020 we have Saturn conjunction Pluto, and then in 2001 we had Mars opposing Jupiter, and that kind of makes Mars explosion fire, Jupiter things go overboard. And this time we had Mars squaring the conjunction of Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn. And let's see, in 1947, just like in 2020, we had Saturn and Pluto conjunction. And those two planets together, they were trined by Mars, which in 2020, Mars had squared that conjunction. And also in 1947, Mars was in opposition to Neptune, which Neptune often relates to things like chemicals, gas, etc. And of course, there are a whole bunch of other news which were similarly related to what I already pointed out in previous, I guess, weekly predictions, that August is going to be a tense month with increased probability of various explosions, disasters, fires, angry protests, etc. And we had, I guess, just to really quickly list them, literally within just a few days, we had this, of course, explosion in Beirut. Then we had on the 4th of August, chemical factory in China and Wuhan exploded, 6 people died. On the same day, we had explosion in North Korea, in Hesan, also 9 people died there. On the same day in Minnesota, in the US, and St. Paul, a 69 million apartment and hotel construction project went up in flames. At the same time, again, I saw a headline on the same day from California, wildfire forced thousands to be evacuated. On the 5th, huge blaze broke out in the food market in Ajman, United Arab Emirates. The 6th, we had fire at World Trade Center in Brussels, and same day, fire in food and electrical storage in Najaf, Iraq. And then also on the 6th, again, I also predicted for August, but I thought it would start mainly be felt from about the 10th of August. But on the 6th, there was, and what was it? That in addition to all these fires, explosions, there will be also news about like athletes, especially racers or fighters and or important persons, leaders who will either be attacked or suffer some sort of a accident. And accident may involve things that are like moving fast and suddenly they run into an unmovable object of some sort. And so indeed on the 6th of August, I guess there was a race, cyclist race in Poland, and a Dutch cyclist at only 23 years old, he had basically suffered a high-speed crash and had to initially undergo like facial surgery and be put in a coma. I guess he's recovering now, luckily. Then we also had just this past Saturday on the 8th, news about Simon Cowell, of course the media mogul, who also had, I guess, suffered, he broke his back in the accidents falling off of his electrical bike. Again, luckily, I think they put some like metal rod on his back, and supposedly he is already recovering, which again, of course, great that he's recovering. At the same time, again, this is the type of influence where we had all kinds of news of this similar nature. And as I said, I was expecting things to start getting worse starting about the 10th, which is Monday, of course, of this week for which I'm recording these predictions. However, things already seem to be gearing up, so I guess things may only unfortunately get kind of more tense from here. So some other things that occurred this last week: there was a massive power outage in Manhattan in US, of course, and then in New York, and then the unfortunate disaster where the Air India Express flight skied off the runway in Kerala and 18 people died there. So I did see, I'm recording this on the 10th of August in the afternoon, I did see more news, I guess, along the same lines. Fire in Birmingham in UK engulfed a plastic factory after a huge explosion. So again, the same sort of pattern: chemicals, explosions, fires, then of course continuing protests in both Belarus and Lebanon. Volcano erupted in Indonesia, and then literally like this afternoon we had some news in the US where Trump was giving a press briefing and there were some shots fired nearby in DC and they had to interrupt the press briefing. So what I'm saying is that the month definitely looks tense and things will continue, in my opinion, kind of getting somewhat worse before they get better after, I would say, about the 4th of September. Let's see, another prediction that I made for the past week was for August 4th and 5th that there would be increased focus on earnings and expenses of companies related to IT, cars, retail sales, social media, airplanes, communication, transportation in general. And indeed, on the 7th, there was news that SpaceX and ULA won a major billions, I guess, dollars worth contract from Pentagon for, I guess, rocket contracts, and they beat Blue Origin and Northrop Grumman in that. Let's see, and another prediction that I made, again, for August, in addition to all these disasters, etc., fires, that there would be increased focus on things like taxes, rates, loans, and governmental regulations of financial flows, again, to control that, so that things, I guess, wouldn't get out of the control, or to kind of guide those financial flows. And especially in the US, it might be focused on things like rates, loans, debt, bankruptcies, with the peak time in August being from the 13th through the 21st of August. And on the 8th, on Saturday, Trump signed a series of executive orders, I guess because the relief or the stimulus talks have stalled on the Capitol Hill. So Trump signed some of these orders to give some relief to workers, and including what was that, to basically deferred, I guess, deferring payments of some of the taxes like Social Security. So basically, again, moving, I guess, to this week's prediction, there will be increased focus on these kind of matters, again, variety of disasters, fires, etc., globally, as well as rates, taxes, financial flows, and how governmental entities regulate those. And in particularly in the US, these will be quite important, and 13th through the 21st of August, and this may also be accompanied by announcement of maybe bankruptcies or debt or loans, especially by companies related to like retail sales, IT, airlines, and communication, transportation in general. So let's see, in terms of the various like earthquakes or disasters involving, say, mudslides, or like tall objects falling down, maybe like a building crashing down, or like I said, the rock slide or something like that, or prominent persons being at the top, that then again the experience of fall either literally or, because their reputation suffers, etc. We will have this influence will be quite strong this week, and especially 11th through the 16th, and especially 11th and the 16th of August. For other countries, I guess I did know that August also saw fairly strong transits to the China's chart, and there the influence will be the strongest 9th through the 17th of August, and the focus there may be, in addition to these kind of, again, disasters, kind of tensions, maybe on healthcare, pharmaceuticals, Navy, secretive activities, hidden places, pollution, Navy, water, chemicals, and recycling. So this may manifest as either some problems in those areas or trying to keep some situation hidden, because again there's some sort of disaster perhaps, but it's being kept under wraps, or pollution or something is spreading where perhaps even within the country of China people may not be aware that there is something that's spreading in it, but it's unfortunately at this time may not be maybe dangerous or have worse sort of effects than usual. So let's see. So then, in terms of like the other kind of ongoing influences, we will have an intensification of some of these, I guess I would say, tense aspects or concerns about, say, COVID, or concerns about various disasters. Of course, in August looks really sort of tense and negative, and then in the future we will have, I guess November is another time period where I would also be looking for some sort of either problems, or if there are issues or protests, etc., not spiraling, but increasing at this time, the resolution or the culmination of some of these issues may come sometime in early November. And this also includes COVID and any sort of news about infectious diseases or viral outbreaks. Like there was recently news about some tick-borne disease from China that maybe is not as infectious but more deadly. So if there are any such kind of again, news about any other disasters or viral kind of, like I said, infections, these will also be either peaking again in November, especially in November, like I would say 9th through the 13th in China, and or at that time there will be some sort of a resolution where a final stop or final decision is made as far as how to address it, or maybe if there's some sort of I guess people were prevented from, for example, commuting somewhere or doing something at that time, there may be a final decision made on how to proceed. Perhaps it will be associated with development of a vaccine or a solution that is applied that's more or less permanent. But after, I'd say in November of this year, I think there will be, I guess, less turmoil or fewer concerns about the COVID per se. And again, that's just on the sort of a medium-term scale, where either there's, like I said, there will be a resolution because some vaccine will be implemented or solution is found. Okay, people will have to follow these procedures, but it will be kind of sort of winding down a little bit in terms of specifically this COVID-19, focus on COVID-19. It doesn't mean that in the future there will not be new waves of various other like viral outbreaks, etc., because I believe there will be in the upcoming years. And in terms of oil, sort of predictions for oil prices, that globally August 29th through 30th may see increased news related to like negotiations, sales, or talks about transportation of oil, gas, chemicals, etc. And at that time, the news may be stressful, so maybe negotiations are not going as well, or transportation of maybe some sort of shipment cannot go through, or the details of the negotiations or deal are not clear, so maybe the deal is reached, but because the details are not going to be clear, it still may be perceived negatively. And in the US, 30th and 31st of August may also see increased focus on similar topics such as oil sales, prices, as well as negotiations, deals, and various projects related to oil transportation. And the news from the US, in contrast to the global news, may actually be positive, where maybe a large sale is made or some transportation deal is signed. And as I said before, like the next sort of a large period or important period for oil news will be starting in November of 2020 and continue through about February 2021. And especially at the end of January of 2021 is where will be another period where perhaps there'll be some intense negotiations among, say, oil producers, or about maybe oil prices, something like OPEC meeting or something like that. There may also be a large accident that perhaps may lead to oil pollution, like water being polluted by oil, or some other significant developments related to all these Neptunian matters like oil, gas, chemicals. And at the same time, the end of January appears to be a time where there may be unexpected, surprising, but probably more stressful developments related to like finance, cryptocurrencies, or banks. And it also may involve airlines, telecoms, IT companies. So either it will be just independent, and in parallel you have some issues related to, say, oil prices, and separately concerns about airlines, and or maybe those will be related where there may be a really tense period, and obviously problems for airlines will also be translating to some developments perhaps in oil availability or oil prices. And definitely end of January looks stressful for both of those areas, and it could be along the lines of airlines suffering some bankruptcies, perhaps because there are not enough passengers, and of course this would coincide with oil prices going down. And or there also could be other issues at the time, end of January, that is like massive power outages, service outages, problems for, say, cloud providers, again some problems that are like the network connection is down or something like that. And let's see, and at the same time, especially January 18th to 29th may see increased stock market volatility as well. And after that, again, for issues related to oil or any other really Neptunian topics, again, chemicals, maritime accidents, pharmaceuticals, the next time period where those issues will come up and be covered more strongly in the media would be April of 2021, especially April 8th through 11th. And there again, maybe renewed tensions or fighting over oil or about oil prices. And these tensions may be accompanied by a large drop in the market on the 8th and or 9th of April. So in the meantime, for this week, the week of August 10th, 2020, I actually think that every day of the week we'll see market going up. So it looks positive in that sense, even despite the tensions and probability of like fires, disasters, etc. I think for the stock market, things actually will be going up. And let's see. For Monday, I predicted increased probability of surprising developments related to IT, airlines, aerospace, telecoms, social media platforms, etc. And again, I'm recording this at the end of the business day. On Monday, I didn't necessarily see that. Again, I may have not caught all of the headlines just yet. There's also a probability, again, I predict this for Monday, but it's possible that I either missed the headlines or it will come up on Tuesday, that there may be some surprising or unexpected announcements, perhaps by like some social media company, that they're perhaps either announcing some sort of sale or acquisition of a new, maybe a company, like a startup, or that they're pivoting and changing their service to kind of make it more appealing to a new customer group, especially younger or students. And again, possibly it was occurring, but I didn't necessarily see it, but I'll have to check for that later, I guess. As I mentioned, August 10th or about the 28th will be quite significant in terms of like various tensions, but it will actually continue. The end of August also has its own, I would say, issues, and not until, let's say, September 4th is where these tensions may start kind of to die down a little bit. So before that, I would divide August into multiple sort of time periods, and 10th through the 28th specifically. The 10th through 16th may see focus more like problems with sort of militarized kind of groups, literally like angry protests, anti-governmental protests, various attacks that are violent, either by terrorists or people literally with guns or trying to set up fires, or fires occurring, maybe fighting, explosions, and accidents, again, involving especially like important people or athletes or people who are somehow into kind of taking risky activities and extra macho. There may also be problems for like large corporations, established old leaders, tall buildings, mountains, and or old ancient buildings or sites that are obviously some sort of archaeological site that's on the ground, or underground locations, literally like a mine or nuclear waste storage facility, or some underground archaeological site, or underground in the sense that they're secretive, like secret lab somewhere, or group that's trying to be, acting in some secret manner, or nuclear power plant, waste storage sort of facilities, funeral homes, prisons, so any places that have to do with either criminal activity, underground activity, or death, or they're isolated like a hospital somewhere, or even the monastery somewhere far away. So those kind of isolated, underground, hidden places will be probably experiencing the most problems at this time. And also, like I said, the leaders, anyone who's like truly powerful or has been in power for a long time, or is a famous person who's, again, like Simon Cowell, who is established in their industry and well known, those folks may be affected the most. And or in addition to all these fighting and protests, there may also be increased news of like hacking, spying, and various illegal kind of activities, like by gangs or smuggling, etc. And the fighting may be kind of more, maybe even between these kind of fighting groups, there will be increased skirmishes, as well as increased kind of a probability if there's an accident that it may trigger greater, I guess, reaction, where maybe previously the reaction would be more subdued. There may be an overreaction, with like firearms from one of the sides. And also increased probability of large earthquakes, mudslides, volcanic eruptions. That's the 10th through the 16th of August. Then August 14th through 18th, especially the 16th of August, may see specifically increased probability of strong fires, accompanied likely by winds, or even notable solar events of some sort, maybe like a solar flare heading and affecting Earth. Also excessively hot weather, excessively hot meaning even if it's like a southern hemisphere of Earth, it may be warmer than usual for that particular location. And if there's a fire, like a major fire, that may break out at that time, it may be harder to put down. So the influence will be favoring these hot, kind of uncontrolled, fiery situations, including literal fires or even literal solar events. Then August 22nd through 28th may be a period where, again, anti-governmental protests will continue. At the same time, of course, we also may have, again, continued probability of large earthquakes, mudslides, volcanic eruptions, and various disasters. At the same time, I think this may be, let's see. Yeah, this also may focus on like athletes. Like I said, something that's moving fast, abruptly coming to a stop. But at this time, I think things may be coming even more, I would say, aggressive. So maybe in the first sort of through a bit, I guess, before the 22nd of August, things may focus more on like underground locations, or either the fighting may be still happening underground on secretive locations, and then 22nd through the 28th of August is where the fighting may become kind of more obvious, or more sort of above ground, or more, I guess, in your face and more aggressive. At the same time, we will also see increased effort by the governments or by corporate, establishment to suppress that. That's where that visual of, something that's moving really fast meets the wall. So at that point, these kind of either protests or out of control activities may start to be kind of being regulated more or suppressed more by either literally something falls down and stops this moving situation, or the government clamps things down and again something has to come to a stop. So on to some positive news for US. August 10th through 14th may see increased news that are positive about like maybe increased earnings and some increased more kind of beneficial circumstances for businesses related to long distance travel, import-export, immigration and international affairs. So perhaps like a profitable deal may be reached in those areas, or long distance travel conditions may improve. Some new act is passed that is seen as approving immigration policy. And for China, for August 9th through 17th, as I said, will be an important period. There will be we will see increased focus on like healthcare, pharmaceuticals, infectious diseases, various treatments, as well as Navy secretive activities, chemicals, oil, pollution, recycling. And for China at that time, there may be tensions surrounding those areas, or accidents, or fighting, or some arguments. And it could be an internal situation, or it could be with one or more of their partners. And if there are tensions, unfortunately, they may even result in some military tensions or really like angry threats. And there's also increased probability again in China for flare-ups of infectious diseases, problems with some pharmaceuticals, drugs, increased number of accidents, earthquakes, mudslides, and various unrest and protests. And again, in places that are normally hidden and are kind of maybe quiet, like prisons, hospitals, and monasteries, or anything that's like underground and or is being kept secret or just far away, or like remote places experiencing some sort of the viral outbreak. And also these problems may occur either near water, underwater, or in locations that are wet, or in locations that are somehow involved with like oil, gas, hospitals, pharmaceuticals, maybe these laboratories. So any of these kind of Neptunian places, or even maybe a movie theater, is where those situations may arise. And unfortunately, it may involve also problems with, like I say submarine or dam, where if there is a fire and explosion, it may release pollution into water. At the same time, there will be strong emphasis in China on secrecy and deception. So it may be that, say, there's a problem, but it's being rushed to being basically hushed up, and because of these, to basically prevent this situation from affecting earnings, and or vice versa, to kind of desire to maybe push for higher earnings may lead to kind of either cover up or basically omission of some information, and perhaps there's a pollution and that information is not being necessarily widely shared, because again that may affect because of the concerns that it may affect earnings. So let's see. So as I said, market going up every week, every day of the week, from what I am predicting. Then on August 13th through the 21st, as I mentioned, is an important time for US, where there may be increased news about like various loans, debt rates, taxes, insurance, and also unfortunately possibly bankruptcies, especially for companies that are related to transportation, communication, like retail sales, maybe newspapers, car manufacturers, rental car businesses, etc. And there may also be significant concerns or significant changes related to like schools, education, real estate, farming, and food production. And there again, there may be concerns where there will be questions about safety and need to regulate to make sure things are safe and secure, maybe securing food supply or safety, of kids at the school. And this may basically bring about either some sort of delays in decisions, so maybe delaying, whether kids can go to school, or delays in regulating, delays or increased regulation of how something is functioning, maybe of, say, groceries chain or something like that, grocery store chain, or even how farmers, store food or something like that. There may be some concerns around that, and calls for increased regulation, and leading to basically either delays or some changes in how things function. And finally, Friday may see important announcements related to IT, and that's global news. IT, communication, transportation, such as cars, social media, travel, and retail sales, as well as women and children, something related to perhaps young people or education. And this may be a positive announcement where whatever the announcement is made, it will be perceived as a improvement and a positive development by general public. So to summarize, again, tense month, most likely we'll probably continue seeing some of these unfortunate events that we have witnessed in the first week of August. At the same time, for now at least, for this week, I guess market I think will be continuing to go up. And however, I'd say starting 10th through the 28th, and then I will cover the end of August in the future installments. I would definitely not go out and subject myself to unnecessary risks, and definitely take precautions, because these strong stressful aspects may be manifesting in some companies or some individuals' horoscopes and charts more than in others. So maybe even if you're not the one affected, somebody who is maybe driving on the road next to you maybe, and they may be in extra bad mood, or they may be the ones who are, feeling extra stressed. So I would just basically give people a little extra safe space and basically not take unnecessary risks. So I hope this helps, and I hope you're having fun, safe August, and hopefully you find these predictions helpful and come back and check me out next time, or you can also read them at lostonka.com. And until then, see you guys, bye.